FUEL. FUEL stands for Finance, Unity, Empowerment, Legacy. Join us today as Dr. Jackie, Mac, and Dennis share from the theme, It's a Heart Issue, I Tell You. Enjoy. Wow, guys, it seems like it has been forever since the three of us have been able to connect and do whatever we do on this thing that we call FUEL. I don't even know if I remember what the letters stand for. Dennis, can you help us out?
Family, unity, equality, and legacy.
So, you know what? You got some of them. I don't think you got an A+ on that, but you got some of them.
Well, you know, I always think about fueling future generations and, you know, whatever fits at the time.
At the time applies, right?
Hey, especially with the E. The E always seems to be pretty liberal.
Quality.
Yeah. It's good to see you guys.
Yep.
Yeah. How was your trip?
Oh man, it was really incredible. Not to be long-winded about it. I'm actually working on a multi-million-dollar project, trying to secure the funds for that. And so I had to get with my people in Rwanda in order to come up with a business plan that would be legit and prayerfully get the funds that we need to get stuff done. So just for our audience, basically we're trying to take a village community and make it a sustainable entity all in itself without need from any help from the major cities that surround it. So that involves everything from solar power to agriculture to affordable housing and education and medical. So that's kind of the Cliff Note version of all that. So that was my main reason for going. But of course, I love my people in the continent. So it was really exciting.
You know, you got all these projects all over the world. What about here? And somebody said something to me the other day, and it was like, some people are victims of circumstance, and some people made a choice. And the made a choice thing is kind of tough, because it reminded me of something that Kanye West said. But making a choice to not be educated is tough. It's one of them systematic things that you cannot blame on racism, because there are a lot of free libraries around. And I think it was Elon Musk that said he would go to the library and read. And I remember there's a story, I got a bunch of stories in my head, I'm sorry, but the kids, you know, they didn't want to be cold, so they would go to the library to read. And both of them are, you know, good entrepreneurs now. So we have to believe that there's a future. I mean, I'm talking about the individuals who are in those situations. I know it's hard to think about studying and learning when you're hungry. But the rest of us, you know, we have to figure out a way to instill that mindset. Like you said, there's some cultural things that you have to deal with. And these are cultural things. There aren't things that when I grew up, I didn't know, you know, I didn't know how bad things were. You know, I didn't know until I was able to read that we were in a bad place. But we always had food, we always had clothes, we always had lights and electricity. But when, you know, Dr. Jackie and I went out to Southern Maryland to find out that people were living in tents and crashed airplanes. And when we're talking Maryland, less than an hour away from where I live. And, it's just amazing. But you look at the infrastructure in that area and there is no infrastructure. There is no library. So even what I said earlier is a moot point if there is nowhere for you to go. So how do we stretch out? So I really appreciate what you did, because you walked out there and you took action right away, and that was really good. You and Dr. Jackie have the gift of works, and it is amazing the lives that you guys have changed through what you do. So I know, what does fuel have to do with that? Well, absolutely everything. Because how are you going to fuel future generations when you find a pocket? And I'm sure it's a bigger pocket than even I know, because I was surprised. I think they took us for a ride around the area, right, Dr. Jackie?
Yes.
And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, we're only 30 miles from DC. We're 30 miles from the casinos. We're 30 miles from National Airport. We're 30 miles from BWI. Well, maybe more than 30 miles from BWI, but
even more so, we were probably 10 to 12 miles from their courthouse area.
Yeah.
So,
What was it? Waldorf?
yes.
Charles County?
Yes.
La Plata?
Yes.
All these areas were like less than 3 miles away from a part of Maryland that I would consider would be part of like Alabama. I don't even know Alabama. I've never been there, so let me not say Alabama. Something that you think you watch the movies, you'd be like, good Lord, that's rural. So it's good that all I'm saying is it's good that your actions are around your words. So when we're trying to fuel future generations, I mean, these are people who are actually doing it, and we're trying to reach forward and reach in our neighborhoods at the same time.
And I'll let Dr. Jackie pontificate as well.
Pontificate.
Yeah, I'm trying to up my my ante, so to
Been in the
speak.
Vocabulary. My goodness.
Hey,
First
look, when you
my
when you
mother
got
used
the
to say,
doctor.
first you gotta spell it before you can say it.
Hey, no. I never promised I could spell. No, but you said that this has everything to do with fuel, and it really does, because one of the just the you can call it principles of life for us that are have a faith or a belief in a greater being. I'll just leave it like that for this conversation. It still comes down to that there are elements that you follow in order to have a successful life. And one of those elements is not being selfish. So many times when we're dealing with fuel, which, by the way, finance, unity, empowerment, legacy, that's the true meaning behind the, was that an acronym, synonym, whatever that is. We tend to not understand it's better to give than to receive. So if our actions, even if we are struggling, if our actions are still ones that we still support families or communities, whatever that looks like in your world, there's a reciprocity that takes place in that you'll never be able to outgive the giver. But if you take an effort to give, there's a return on investment, ROI, we call it. And that's just a principle of the earth, the cosmos, whatever you want to call it. And I think many times we forget to address that, and you end up still struggling, trying to figure out, well, why am I not moving forward? And you say that I've done all the things that, Dennis and Dr. Jackie and Mac said to do, and yet I still find myself, behind the 8 ball. But I think that is because when you also link into something else where you're lending support, even if it can be financial, but if you're putting in sweat equity to support something, it tends to just come back at you.
I was just going to talk about something you showed me, Dennis. You're probably going to have to help me, where the individuals, I think, were running an experiment of either asking for money to get coffee, or remember,
Yeah.
could you
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about that? And because that was where it doubled, because the person had a giving spirit. Do you want to mention that so I won't mess it up?
Well, I'm sure you've seen these YouTubers or TikTokers, whatever they are, but they go up to people and they say, I need to buy my daughter some food. Can you lend me $1? I'm just $1 short. Can you give me $1? Not lend. Can you give me $1 so I can get my baby some food? And of course, some people say no. Get away from me. I don't have no money. But some people are like, sure, here. Look, matter of fact, here's $2. Get some extra. And then the guy turns around and says, well, actually, why were you nice to me? So he asked the question, why were you nice to me? And they said, well, I wish somebody would help me out if I was in this situation, because somebody helped me out when I was in that situation. And I had to ask for money. So I know where you're coming from, so here you go. So the guy said, well, no, I'm just here to bless you. So since you were so willing to give, I'm gonna give you, 500, 1,000. I've seen them give up to 100,000 one time. And it's just the act of giving. Now, of course, their TikTok views go up and they get paid from showing that, but it's also what Mac was talking about, and I hope what Dr. Jackie was getting me to say this for, is that, you give, you receive, so you can give again. You don't give, you don't receive, so you don't have anything to give again, So it's a self-fulfilling self-fulfilling prophecy, Is that where you want me to go, Dr.?
Yes, and it was. And because the one that stuck in my head was a gentleman who said, and he was so the end of, well, you know what, that isn't even important. It's more the spirit that led them to do or say. And so the woman was coming out of the grocery store and he said he was really hungry. Could I just have one thing?
The one out of your cart.
Out of your cart, just one thing out of your cart. And she said, get away, I have what I have and I need it and I don't have any to give away. And so he asked a couple of times, and then a gentleman came behind and he asked the gentleman started, and the woman turned around and said, don't help him, don't give him anything, he's just, and so the guy didn't pay attention and gave him something. And so the gentleman then said, so thank you so much. But how much did you spend on your groceries? And he said $80, something like that. And the guy then gifted him a lump sum. It might have been 100, might have been 500. The point is that it was from his generosity. And around the car came the woman, said, you can have anything in my cart. What do you want? But it's the spirit of giving willingly, not because now you're going to get something from it. What's behind door number one? You don't know till you open it. And And so I liked what you all were talking about, that return on investment. When we talk about investing, we always say don't invest more than you have to give. But if you have a cart of
More
food,
than
if you
more than
have,
you're available to
I mean,
lose.
to lose, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What you're available to lose, you don't know if that investment's going to or not, but you're willing to, and I don't want to say risk in this instance, but take a chance on someone else
You
by
know what,
helping out.
Dr. Jackie, I don't even think it's necessarily even taking a risk. Again, when you are dealing with a reciprocity, and I know that we should not be led to just do charitable things just because we know that we're going to get something in return. However, because we end up getting something in return anyway, somewhere in our experience, we reap what we sow. So I think that when we're talking to our audience, we ought to just say, it's a heart issue. We care about everybody on the planet. Everybody matters. No matter who you come up to, no matter whether they're nice to you, whether they're mean to you, what have you, that's somebody's child, that's somebody's father or mother. They are part of the fabric of our global community. And we can only dictate how we respond to people. I've never, ever been kind to anyone with an expectation that they're going to be kind back to me. It's just that I just choose to be kind. And when we bring that into the fuel universe, while you're trying to improve your financial situation, just also determine that you're going to be kind to other people in whatever that means. Again, it may not always equate to you having the resources to actually give money to something, but if you have an hour a week or 2 hours a week to volunteer somewhere, to serve somewhere, maybe you have a skill, with the wintertime coming up, maybe you knit gloves or caps, maybe you just donate that, whatever that looks like to the individual. I think that's the important thing. And I wanted to share one really quick story, because normally when you guys are bringing up the things that I do, it's always on the international level. But we have an outreach in Baltimore that happens every month. Okay, it's the most consistent program that I have in my organization, and it's been really interesting. The last 2 months in a row, we have had someone in our community, I won't call them homeless because I don't know what their situation is. We refer to them as community friends. But I had a couple of community friends actually give money to us. We're serving them, but they've given us money. And it touched my heart. It touched the heart of the person that I have coordinating this thing, because in all of my years, and I'm talking about 30 years now, this is the first time that something like that's happened, where someone who has already been a recipient actually returned on investment. And I just received it again as sowing a seed. And we need to all realize that just as we have our resident gardener, Mr. Sawyer here, who, grows things from the earth and, watches it, germinate and manifest into something that is not only edible, but is also nutritionally sound. But he had to start with planting. And that planting, that's the amazing thing about it, is that when you put a seed into the soil, you cannot see what's going on underneath. It's a trust factor. You trust that somewhere this thing is going to produce what it's supposed to produce. And so, taking that again to fuel, if you keep planting, it's impossible that there won't be ROI when you do that. And you just have to be patient enough to wait for it however it manifests itself. And I think that, again, so often we just talk about financial strategies, we talk about, rule of 72, we talk about compound interest, and all those things are key. But there's also just life principles that we need to put in play in order to be able to fuel those future generations.
Absolutely. I also think to add on to that is you got to have a foundation. And, a house built on styrofoam is sure to fall. So, and first, before I just say that, I want to say, what's the name of your organization?
Thirst No More Corporation.
Absolutely. Now I can talk. I want to make sure I heard that correctly. Okay. As far as foundational stuff, I just decided that we need to talk about the scariest thing to people. And the scariest thing, other than investing and saving, is life insurance. And the misinformation out there is scarier than anything. I got this card in the mail that said for 83 cents a segment, I can have $100,000 insurance. And of course, once you find out you need 100 segments, that 83 cents becomes a bigger number really fast, $83 or something. But anyway, the thing is, what we have to learn is that just like crayons, each kind of insurance is for different purposes. So, crayons are the foundation of colors. They're not all the colors, but it's a foundation. You got to have black, you got to have white, you got to have green, you got to have red, you got to have blue. What's the other major color? But, RGB, red, green, blue, you could make every single color in the rainbow.
Let me correct you for a moment, because you got the resident artist here. Red, yellow, blue. Those are the foundation.
I say green, sorry, because blue and yellow. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes, the artists, they're kind of special. But anyway, the thing is that that's a foundational thing. And we're not afraid of crayons, but we're afraid of life insurance because there's 1,000 kinds of life insurance. And you have to get the life insurance that fits your needs. So let's say, you were crazy and you went out and bought a $100,000 car, and you just want to make sure that your wife or your husband gets the car just in case something happens to you. Well, you can actually buy insurance that will ensure that the car is paid off just in case something happens to you. It don't cost $1 million, but that's one way of asset protection. You can do it for houses, do it for cell phones, and you can do it for your life. Because who do you care about the most? Your family. What does fuel care about? Everyone's family. So it's a foundational thing. And that's why I know who to go to when I have foundational issues. Oh, Mac, I found this group of people in this state. Can your Thirst No More Corporation help them? And Matt can say yay or nay, and I don't mean Kanye, but he can get something together. Or, Dr. Jackie, can you help me get a something together to present to my, or to an organization. So these are how you do foundational things. You know who can help with what. So the reason why I brought up life insurance is because a lot of people are afraid of life insurance, but they don't know why. So get educated, learn about it, and then take your real estate class. Why not?
You know, a lot of times we, as Dennis started out using different words for our acronym, FUEL, and I often use literacy for the L of legacy. And it's in line with what both Mac and Dennis are talking about, is the literacy, financial literacy, as well as literacy to understand the different insurance packages. I think the thing that is most fearful and overwhelming is the bombardment of information on TV and then in the mailings, and they mainly talk about your pocket. So you think about insurance as it relates to what you're putting out, and each one is saying you don't have to put out a lot, and we'll do all these wonderful things for you. But as Dennis mentioned, and all of us have been involved in this effort, you really need to understand what you need. Well, first you need to understand what each thing offers and match it with what you need and your family needs. Having worked closely with individuals who are in the process of making those considerations or who have passed, you find where their lack of understanding put them in places that left their family not where they wanted. And so when you think of your legacy, think of your literacy in the area of finances, but also of insurance, so that, and we have at other times broken down what each is, and maybe we will in another time, but yeah, it's very valuable.
Well, on the legacy part, which a lot of people don't understand, is your life insurance can have a living benefit.
Right.
It's not always about death, and I probably shouldn't say this on the air, but I use my life insurance to buy my cars. I haven't had a car note with someone else in a long time. Once I understood that, I can use my life insurance proceeds to do this. And that was an eye opener, because if you've ever had a car note, and what are they up to, 7 years now or something crazy? When I got my first car, it was 4 years. My second car was 5 years. And the third car I paid cash for. So who or whom, I don't know how you say it, would you rather borrow money from? Yourself or the snake? So as you transition from your fear of life insurance and you learn how to use life insurance, like Matt corrected me. I said RGB, and I said green, and he said, no, it's blue. And I'm like, now I'm educated. It is no skin off my back. It was a perfect opportunity to get educated about something that now I can say the right way. So life insurance is the same way. And I don't want to talk about life insurance all the way, but I was really talking about foundation. First you get your foundation together. And once you have a foundation, your house is strong. Your house is not built on a deck of cards or anything. Then at the foundation, I think protection is the next thing. Right?
Yes.
You got to protect those you love. You got to protect yourself. This is a litigious society now. You say the wrong word and somebody's taking you to court. You have to protect yourself. If you have a house, you got to protect. You have a car. Some people put more money in their cell phones than they put in their own lives, you know? And then after that, my goodness, debt management. What is debt? I know you heard the good debt, bad debt thing. What is good debt, bad debt? Or you're living paycheck to paycheck. So you got to unlearn debt management. And then you invest. Now, I was always taught investing. So I invested first without a foundation. And I taught investing first without a foundation. And then somewhere around 2001 or 2008, between 8 and 14, my goodness, tore me up. I lost all my investments. And I know people say, well, that means you didn't do it right. You're darn right I didn't do it right. I had no foundation. And I was working and making a good amount of money and still couldn't keep up with the loss of my investments. So I went on a quest to learn, how did I lose all my money? And that's when I started learning about insurance, how I could have protected some of my money, how I could have protected my houses, how I could have protected my family, because my family was the one that was in jeopardy from me losing, financial stability. And, a lot of marriages break up due to financial instability. So it's a double-edged effect. It's that give and take that Mac was talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's just amazing. As often as we talk about these things, I mean, you just hit it dead center, Dennis. It's the foundation, man. It's if you could take this even beyond fuel, if you just treat life, and when you're trying to analyze situations or do problem solving, always go to the source. Where's the source? Where does everything start from? And that's where you should focus on it and build your way up. So, when it comes to fuel, you got to first be in a position where you've got to admit you messed up. I mean, and when I talk to people, it's cool. We all mess up. I mean, I don't care how old you are. I don't care what experience you think you have. We mess up. Hey, look, last year I made decisions financially that did not work. I messed up. You own those things. You learn from those things. The three of us have definitely learned some lessons this year in particular. And it may not even be considered mess ups, but it's just that things can happen that can change your planning. And you just have to know that those things could occur. And as Dennis has always said, in times of plenty, prepare for times of famine. And if you do that, that's a foundational principle. If you do that, then you're not going to be happy about taking a loss. But at the same time, it will not devastate you until you're filing for bankruptcy or something because you took a loss. Basic principles of don't invest more than you can afford to lose. These are basic concepts. You can't get enticed because you see your people around you doing big things if you don't have big thing kind of money. You just got to start where you are and do whatever you can do with that, and then let it maturate and grow and progress. And I just think that sometimes, what's the phrase? We get caught up in the Joneses. Like, we're always looking at what somebody else is doing. We're always trying to be like somebody else. And like I told my children, I said, stop following trends, be a trend, be the trend. In this case, on a program that's called Fuel, then the trend is to actually slow that roll, take care of the foundation, take care of the protection, take care of the debt management, take care of those things. And by golly, you're going to already be different than everybody else around you.
It's funny. I like the way you said that. It reminded me of something somebody told me. Every dollar your dollar makes is actually $2 you don't have to work for. What do you mean by that? Well, with taxes taking 40% of your money, you make $1, you gain 40 cents. So now you gain $1.40. I know I'm just messing with the math. I'm sorry. But just think how things would be, if you actually applied the principles that Beck espoused. I'm gonna try to use one of his big words, and changed your life. It's good to have a coach, but we're adults. I tell my daughter, when you're a child, your parent takes responsibility. But when you become an adult, you have to take responsibility. There's no more, well, they did this, or they held me down, or they kept me from getting a promotion. I was always taught the best way to get more money is to go to another job. You want to get a raise, go to another job. Don't beg for 2% if you don't understand what percentages are. Learn what percentages mean. Learn what 1%, 2% can do for you a year. See, now we're talking about the banks, right? Is it even 1% a year?
Hey. Yeah.
If you don't know what percentages are, how you know if you're winning?
Exactly. I wasn't even thinking about the banks, man. I was thinking about the yearly increases that people get on their jobs. Okay, and they say, "Oh, I got me like what 2%, 3%, whatever," and I'm like, "Okay." And have you considered that just like you got that, your taxes and inflation.
Woo.
In other words, your little increase is actually a decrease.
Has been taken away already.
Before you ever received it. So, if you can't even see, this is the thing, people who support Fuel. When you are sitting at the table, especially if you're in a position where you can negotiate salary or negotiate increase, you got to know what you're dealing with.
You got to know the percentages.
You got to know the percentages, right?
What does it mean? Whoa, I got 2% raise. I got a 3% raise.
Wow.
A year?
A year. Per pay period. It's nothing. And the taxes and stuff are eating that up. So you really didn't win at all. The same thing with trying to maneuver between, your main gig and then having part-time jobs. You got to put everything in perspective. Okay.
Travel expenses, yeah.
Yeah. So wait a minute. So now I got to use more gas or more bus fare to get to the next gig. Oh,
you got to use more of the most important thing. The most important thing is time.
Yeah.
That you'll never get back.
Yeah. And not only time, since you brought that up, and since I've lived this, and I know you've lived it too, also wear and tear on this body that you pay for later, like I'm paying for now.
That's why they say youth is wasted on the young. They think they can live forever.
in that same body.
They don't think they're getting old. They're gonna fall on some concrete, bounce up, and keep on walking. Where you and I fall on concrete, it's like, oh, I've fallen and I can't get up.
Get up.
Yes, 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 yes. But
So
I
the
mean,
sooner they understand what we're saying, the better.
yeah, it's just so much that goes into it. Lost time, you know, just family life is compromised. There's a lot going on. So, you know, I know that we might be talking to an audience that might be at rock bottom, but I can tell you, even at rock bottom, you can do things wisely so
Yeah.
that you don't, just burn yourself out and
Yeah.
you just overextend to the point where it's the second gig or what have you, it's really not beneficial to you. Better to build, whether you want to build a career or build an entrepreneurship, better to go that route where you not only love what you're doing, but you can kind of control your hours, than to just be like in the skit. Was it Living Color, whatever? The Jamaicans had the nine
Thousands
jobs. Who wants to live like that? I mean, so
But yeah. I mean, Matt, both of us have come from ground level. I've come from ground level a couple times, I think 3 times in my lifetime. And each time I learned that the sun will come out. All you got to do is hold on, breathe all the oxygen. Because, only thing my mother used to tell me, there's only one thing that can't be taken away other than your life, and that's your knowledge. Once you have it, you own it. If you don't go for knowledge, then whatever you're going for can be taken away. Cars, gold, diamond rings, diamond necklaces, jewelry, shoes, socks, clothes. I mean, all that stuff is temporary. If that is your main goal in life, is to get a Birkin bag or somebody ugly old shoes, it's just crazy. I remember one time I was talking to a young guy and I said, look, I used my life insurance to buy that BMW. He looked at my BMW. He said, yeah, but it's old. I said, buddy, everything gets old. What are you talking about? You missed the whole point. The reason why it's old is because I take care of it. It's not that old. But to him, it was old because he had a brand new BMW. But mine was paid for with cash. His was $683 a month. Good Lord, 683 times 10 is $6,830. Then you got to add another 2 more months on top of that. And he's young, so his insurance had to be up in the, I'm like, man, you're paying $900 a month for a freaking car? And you talk about mine being old because I paid cash for it?
Yeah.
Oh, Lordy be gracious. I said, who taught you this?
Watching
Well,
somebody.
But I
and
do understand that, when we're growing up, there are things that I wanted. I wanted that action figure that had his own car. I didn't get it. I wanted that 10-speed bike with the banana seats and a little flag up at the back. I didn't get it. I wanted a Hot Wheels. I don't know y'all remember this one, Sizzlers.
oh yeah.
That
Oh,
reminds me
yeah.
of Tesla nowadays. I wanted some Sizzlers. I didn't get it. But my mom said, if you want it bad enough, you go find some way to make money and get it. What did I do? I started doing everything to make money. When I saved up enough money to buy them Sizzlers, no Hot Wheels, I didn't buy it because I'm like, I worked too hard. I worked too hard for this money to give it away that fast. You know, somebody said it was a joke, or I think it was Chappelle's show. If reparations are ever given, there will be 1 million recording studios started up next week.
Start with me and you.
we just gave them the money and they already giving it back. Man, you gotta learn what this stuff is. This money is a tool.
Mhm.
You have a foundation, you have a tool, you keep your tool sharpened, because when you need it, you do not want a dull machete cutting through this jungle of life.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, he's going poetic on us.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know, everything we talk about can be related to everything we talk about. I
That
mean,
is
Matt was
true.
talking about my farming. You know, the tools got to be sharp. I made a mistake and left a pair of scissors out in the rain.
Uh-oh.
Let me tell you, WD-40, baby.
Yes.
Will I do that again? No. I look backwards 3 times. I said, all my tools are coming in the house because the tools are more important. You ever dig through dirt with your hands? You ever dig through dirt with a dull shovel? Look, everybody should go get a pot. I don't care if you live in an apartment. I don't care if you live in a condo. I don't care if you live in a house with 1,000. Get you a 5-gallon bucket, clean it out, put some dirt in there, and plant some seeds. You know,
All
I
right.
fed my mother daily on lettuce. I was growing lettuce. I didn't go to the store for lettuce, you know, because I planted a foundation, which was, you know, the dirt. And then I planted seeds and I let them grow. And then I fed off of the harvest. Fueling future generations.
There you go.
Tell me that
Did he
ain't
do
good.
it? Did he do it, Mac?
He did
Brought him
it.
down circle.
He did it.